What shall we discuss? Before we go into any of these problems or issues, we ought to go into them completely and thoroughly, taking one thing at a time, and not skip and vaguely talk about many things. So if we could take one issue, one real human problem, and talk it over together completely and seriously, I think it would be worthwhile. So, what shall we talk about?
Education.
What? Beg your pardon?
Education.
You want to talk about that?
Lack of awareness.
Love.
Our lack of awareness, love. What?
So I thought if you could discuss. So sometimes due to nervous fatigue, the mind seems to lose its sensitivity. I was wondering what we could do to cope with such a situation.
Could we take a problem like violence, which seems to be spreading all over the world, and see what the implications are in it, and whether the human mind can really solve the social problems and also the inward problems without any kind of violence. Would you like to talk about that? No, please don't. I mean, as one observes, in every part of the world, there are revolts, revolutions, in order to change the social structure. And the structure has to be changed, obviously, and whether it is possible to change it without violence, because violence begets violence. One party can, through revolt, assume the power of government, and having achieved that power, it will maintain itself in power through violence. And that's fairly obvious, that's what's happening right through the world. So we're asking whether there is a way of bringing about a change in the world and in ourselves which doesn't breed violence. I should have thought this would be a very serious problem for each one of us. Would you want to discuss this, or do you want to discuss how to stand on one's head? What do you say? But please, let us go into it really deeply, not just superficially. Because in talking this thing over, we should bear in mind that it must also alter our ways of life. And I do not know if you want to go so deeply into this question. Please, sirs. So my question is, the outside world, the social structure, the injustice, the divisions, the appalling brutality, wars, revolts, all the rest of it, and also the inward struggle that's going on perpetually. Whether all that can be changed without violence, without conflict, without opposition. Without breeding one party opposed to another party. Not only outwardly, but also inwardly. Without the inward division. Because bearing in mind all division is the source of conflict, is the source of violence. So how is one to bring about this change both outwardly and inwardly? I should have thought that would be the most terribly important issue that we have to face. What do you say, sir? How do we discuss this?
Starting with violence in a small child.
Beg pardon?
We start with violence in a small child.
Shall we start with the children, with the student, or with the educator? Which is ourselves. What do you say? Please, let's talk it over together. Don't let me talk. I can. I'll go on if you wish, but shouldn't we share together in this?
With ourselves.
Big pardon?
Ourselves.
The violence in ourselves would be very realistic.
Where would you begin this to resolve this problem? All the revolts in France that's going on now, in America, here, and in Germany and all the various parts of the world, even in Russia, the intellectuals, some of the intellectuals and writers are revolting against the tyranny. They want freedom. They want to stop wars. Now, where would you attack this problem? Not attack. Where would you start with this problem? Stopping wars in Vietnam? Or the Middle East? Where does one begin to understand this problem? At the periphery or at the center?
In one's home.
Big one?
In one's house. In one's home.
I mean, that's what I mean. Where would you, with oneself, with one's own home, or out there? Where would you begin? Come on.
Why not in both places? If one can bring about some superficial change that may resolve a certain superficial problem, I see no reason why election can take place as well as individual inquiry.
So, that's right, sir. So, are we concerned with superficial changes, superficial reformation, and therefore, which may be necessary, and therefore put our energies and thought and affection, care in the reformation, the outward superficial reformation, or not as an opposite of it, or begin at a wholly different level.
Are the two exclusive?
Huh?
Are the two exclusive?
I didn't say they were exclusive. I said they were not opposite.
I don't see that it's a case of either or.
Beg pardon? I didn't.
I don't see it being a case of either one thing or the other. One
No,
would be very
sir.
serious and at the same time perhaps achieve saving 100 lives by some superficial action. I see no...
I agree,
Right,
but there are many people who are doing superficial activity, thousands of them. Do we exclude that and entirely concern with our own house, or in the very concern of the house, the other is included too? It is not an exclusion or an opposition or avoidance of one and laying emphasis on the other.
Well, sir, I won't persist and monopolise this, but it does seem that very often the people listening to you, and I myself included, have thought that individual inquiry was extremely important to resolve the immediate problem of the individual, to the exclusion of, say, political action, which at its own level may resolve some particular issue. It's not fundamental, but I see no reason
I know.
why they
So,
shouldn't go on in parallel.
I quite agree, sir. Do we deal with the fundamental issues?
Well, I think it's obviously the important thing.
So, where shall we begin? Which is the fundamental issue? Where?
In ourselves, behind ourselves. It's the individual and the massive extension of the individual.
So, it is fairly clear, isn't it? We want change, both outwardly and inwardly, superficially and deeply. One doesn't exclude the other.
That's what I'm trying to say.
One doesn't exclude the other. I must have food in order to think.
Only you did say either or at the beginning. And it's exactly as you were
No,
going to say.
perhaps that's the wrong way of stating it. Without dividing, what is the fundamental issue? Where should we tackle it? Where should we put our
What is the
teeth
cause
into
of
it?
violence?
What, sir?
What is the cause of violence?
What is the cause of violence? Huh? Shall we discuss that? Yes?
Why do we want to change?
Why do we want to change? Why should we change? Well, that's a good question too. Why should we change at all?
Because we don't think we're getting anywhere in our present state.
And even if you got somewhere in your present state, wouldn't you want to change? Now, please, let's come back.
We seem to have, could I put it, very little movement in our present state, very little possibility of movement. We are caught in our own individual ways over and over again by some event which will be different for different individuals. This lack of movement is because we're always caught in life in some way or another, and therefore violence will.
So you ask, what is the cause of violence? Shall we discuss the cause? Shall we find out what are the causes of violence? And each one will have a different opinion of the cause. Even among the experts, they are disagreeing for the causes of violence. And volumes have been written about it. And shall we go on in explaining what are the causes of it, or see the violence as it is, as a fundamental issue in human relationship, and whether it should perpetuate itself or change or modify? What is the fundamental issue involved in violence? Could we?
We're apparently issued with a sort of animal brain, and that is the main cause, I think. Half the time, politicians are behaving just like the chickens in the farmyard.
I know.
Is it possible to look at the individual state of mind to find out whether we are intrinsically violent within ourselves, the very mode of mental activity, dualistic movement is itself?
So, Samit, what is violence? Let's see. What is violence? What would you consider violence?
I think it's self-grasping.
Beg pardon?
I think it's self-grasping. Grasping hold of oneself. Trying to grasp hold of oneself. Or the people one's attached to.
It's
It's
destructive.
selfishness, basically selfishness.
Separation. Reaction to fear.
Oh, go on, sir.
Well, we live in this thing that we were issued with, and there we were naturally violent unless we can jump out of it. The oppressors.
We have been
become the
educated to be
oppressed.
violent. Animal nature and all this, the human brain, which has, etc., we all know this, is violent. Aggressive, standing, opposing, resisting, fighting, asserting, dividing. The self-centered activity, all that goes to make for violence. Then what?
There's part of one that's repelled by violence.
Beg your pardon?
There's also part of oneself that is repelled by violence.
Yes. There's part of oneself which rebels against violence, resists violence, appalled by violence.
Another part which equally likes it, thrives on it.
Yes, sir. Now, then what? Proceed. Then where are we?
You have to admit it, to see it.
The desire to go into the problem of violence is only a partial thing. I mean, one doesn't totally want to resolve the problem of violence.
Doesn't one?
No.
Let's find out. Let's find out. Is it possible to resolve totally the question of violence?
Isn't rebelling against violence a kind of violence itself?
Beg your pardon?
Isn't rebelling against violence a kind of violence? I should think it can be very constructive.
Sorry, sir. If the mind is violent to start with its conditioning, then the outcome.
So what shall we do then, sir?
Well, would it be wise to watch it? Just watch the violence without splitting or separating, and just
First of all, Mr. Cadogan raised the question, do we want to really be free of all violence?
Seeing the outward.
No, first, wait, sir, just answer that question. Do we? Which means, doesn't it? No conflict within oneself, no dualistic activity within oneself, no resistance, no opposition, no aggression, no ambition to be somebody. To assert one's opinion and oppose other opinions. All that implies a form of violence. Not only the violence of self-discipline, the violence that makes me conform to a pattern, twist my particular desire in order to conform, to make it moral or whatever it is. All that, such forms of violence. Will is violence. Do we want to be free of all this? And can a human being live being free from all this?
It seems that in the process we call our life, tension is necessary. We have to distinguish, it seems, between tension and violence. When does tension, which is normal to process, become violence? I'm reminded of the story of the languishing herrings in a tank, who didn't really come to life until they put some dogfish in the tank. When does tension cease, normal tension for the process of life, and violence begin? Do we make a distinction here?
So you think tension is necessary?
In everything there is polarity.
Please, let's find out. Does a human being, do we here want to be free of all violence?
This seems to be a very difficult question because we are such a multiplicity. One says at this moment, perhaps, one does not want violence. The scene changes, and in an hour's time one is violent, one is caught. One is broken up into so many facets.
Well, we do in that case. We do need violence. We want it.
So a person may have seriously attempted to free himself from the violence within, but how does such a person act when he's confronted with violence outward?
Wait, sir, that's a later question. Do we here want to see the importance of being totally free of all violence? Or we like to keep certain parts of violence? And is it possible to be free completely of all violence? That means all irritation, all anger, any form of anxiety, any form of resistance to anything. Go on, sir.
I think there's a difference between you positing that question and an individual saying, I want to be free of all violence. If the one is a sort of dispassionate look at the question. The other one is a movement, again a violent movement.
Yeah, that's just it.
It seems to me a real thing or a reasonable thing to look at the question rather than try to resolve violence. To me, there's different things.
Then what's the question, sir?
Is it possible to be completely free of violence?
That's all.
It is quite different from seeking to be free of violence.
No, quite. Then what do I... Is it possible?
If one sees the pattern of one's daily life, one sees that it seems as if without some form of violence, or maybe what this gentleman called tension, that one could never carry through perhaps one complete job in the face of the pressures and resistances that often surround one in society. We talk about freedom from violence when we are angry or afraid and wish we weren't trapped. But I feel that there is always some violence, perhaps, in our lives, which is difficult to conceive of living, carrying through jobs and tasks without some sort of violent drive, which I feel is violent.
Isn't there a difference between this tension and violence, though? It seems that violence, being resistance and being aggression and all these things, is a deadening. It's something that tries to stop something, it resists. While this tension is something that's alive, that's moving with what you're doing. It seems we have to make that understanding of the difference there between the violence and the tension.
So can we pursue that question? Is it possible for a human being to be completely free of violence? We have understood what we mean more or less violence.
I don't think we have. I agree with him.
What? It's not...
I think that there's a difference between... If there is no difference between violence and energy, then I would not want to be free of violence. But I would like to make a distinction.
If we could see our violence the whole time, there would be no violence.
No, sir. Before we come to that point, do I, as a human being, I say to myself, is it possible to live without violence? Huh? Doesn't know. So let us inquire. Let's go into it, sir. Let's find out.
Wouldn't the only way to find out be to do it?
Not only do it, but inquire. Go into it. Think, watch it. Be aware of this whole movement of resistance. Because I put to myself this question: is it possible for me to be free of all violence, knowing the danger of violence, seeing the outward effects of violence, the divisions, the horrors, that are, and so on and so on. Now, I ask myself, is it possible for me to be free of all violence? I don't know, right? I really don't know. So I'm going to inquire. I'm going to find out. Not verbally, but passionately. I mean, I want to find out. Because human beings have lived with violence for millions of years. And I want to find out if it's possible to live without violence. Now, where shall I begin?
would you first try to understand violence? What violence is?
Oh, I know it very well what it is. Anger, jealousy, brutality, revolt, resistance, ambition, you know all the rest of it. We don't have to define endlessly what violence is.
But I don't really see ambition as violence.
No?
Is it possible to see how it arises in one's soul when it comes up, when it reaches a stage?
So must I wait till anger comes up and then be aware of that anger and say, by Jove, I am violent? Is that what you propose, sir?
The movement leading up to it is very rarely caught by most of us.
So should we understand thoughts first, the pattern of thought, the way thoughts...
So it's such a vast problem. Don't let us take little bits of it. Let's not attack. Let us observe it at the very core of it. What makes the mind violent in me, in this human body, in this person? What is the source of this violence?
Fear.
Watch it in yourself, sir. What is the source of this violence in this person? Huh?
Isn't it my desire to achieve something, my desire to get somewhere, to gain something, to be something? And so the first thing I'd want to look at is to see how much of the violence that I knew I had I could give up and still survive within acceptable limits. That would be my first.
Within the acceptable limits, and that may also be violent.
Yes, I would expect that I would still have a degree of violence.
And I'm asking myself whether it's possible to live without violence. And I say, what is this root of this? If I could understand that, perhaps I'll know how to live without violence. What's the root of this violence?
A feeling of separation.
What?
A feeling of separation. Of feeling
You say the root of this violence is separation, division. The me. Now wait a minute. Can the mind live without the me? Please go on. Let's inquire.
True, so long as there is an objective or a desire of any kind, there's a seed of violence.
Of course, that's the whole point. We must go step by step into this. Please, sirs, go on.
Does this not in turn raise the question, though, is it possible to live without any objective?
Any friction.
Any objective?
Yes, is it possible to live without any objective, without any principle, without any aim, without any purpose? Which the opposite of that is to drift.
No.
Now, therefore, we must be careful that we don't think in terms of the opposite. If I have no objective, then I'm just drift. So I must be very careful when I say is an objective a form of violence. The non-objective may be a drift.
But this is irrelevant, sir, because whether one drifts or not isn't the question. The question is it possible to live without violence?
I'm only warning, sir. I'm not saying. I'm only warning. Not to go to the opposite. Now, is it possible to live without direction? Direction means resistance. Means no distraction, no distortion, a continuous drive towards that. Why do I want a purpose, a goal, an end? And is the end, the goal, the purpose, the principle, the ideal, is it true? Is it a thing which the mind has invented because it is conditioned, because it is afraid, because it is seeking security both outwardly and inwardly? Therefore it invents something and pursues that, hoping to have security.
Well, at times one's perhaps had intimations of this other thing, and the intimations seem to give one
Yes,
drive.
one may have an intimation of it, but that isn't good enough for me. I want to find out whether it's possible to live without violence. And that's a passionate thing. It's not just an ideological fancy. I really want to find out.
Trouble is, I don't really feel this question.
You don't feel it.
Not enough to reach, to go.
Why don't you? Why not? That's the whole, the whole issue of existence is this.
I think this is a problem for most of us. We don't
Good God. They're burning, they're destroying, they're, and we say, I'm sorry, it doesn't really interest me.
If it's interesting, you're already resisting against burning and
Beg
destroying.
pardon?
If the question of violence interests you, I think you're already resisting against burning and destroying. I think if you didn't have violence in yourself, you simply wouldn't be interested.
So within the meaning of the word violence, would you include things such as enthusiasm for something, drive, pep, all these things? Would you call these things violence?
Not what I call, so what do you call it?
I don't know.
Let's find out. I'm not an oracle. Let's find out. Let's stick to this question, sir. Is it possible for me to live without violence completely?
You're caught in such a terrible trap.
You can't.
We're caught.
You're
We're caught.
caught in such
We are caught in
a
it.
terrible trap.
Then you remain in it?
No, but we live in a body which we have a body to preserve and the self to preserve. And it's very difficult to
What shall I do? Please answer my question. Is it possible? Don't say it's difficult. I'm asking. To me, it's of tremendous importance. The world is burning with it. Don't say my body is weak and this is difficult, this is not possible, I must be a vegetarian, I mustn't kill. You follow? I'm just asking, is it possible? And to find that out, I must find out what is the source of this violence, what is the root of it. What's that? Therefore, I don't know if I have understood it rightly, we accept violence then.
No.
So, would you put it this way, if you could find the source, the root of this violence, and if that root could wither away, you might live totally different kind of life. So wouldn't it be worthwhile to find out what is the root of it and whether it can wither away? I'm not interested in fear. My question is, I want to end violence. Because I see violence begets violence. It's an endless thing, this violence. The blacks against the white, and you know what's happening in the world. One party gets on top and rules through violence, and all the rest of it. Now, I ask myself, what is it possible? And before I can answer that question, I must find out what is the root of it. Root of all these innumerable branches.
Well, we can't do it by thinking about it.
We're going to find out, madam. We're going to think about it. And see the futility of thought and then go afterwards. But we must exercise our intelligence, our thought.
So long as I want to do anything, there is violence in a greater or lesser degree.
I understand this. I just said, look, is it possible to live without violence? And to find that out, I must know there must be an inquiry into the root of it.
What I'm trying to say is that the whole structure of life, normally, as we know it, consists of wanting to do this, wanting to do that.
Of course.
Everything.
Of course.
So everything involves violence.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to say.
That's agreed.
Paradoxically, might one consider self-preservation as one source?
You see, you're all bringing up not the main fundamental issue.
Sir, you keep talking about the root, but it strikes me the way life is at the moment, and I'm living in a town at the moment. But just like the air, in human society, violence hasn't got a root. It's a kind of fog in which everything is involved in it, and the questing after a root of it, it's a question that doesn't spring to my mind very naturally at all. One sees it in a kind of animal-like way. So and so is frightened, so and so. He's behaving this way. But it's a kind of series of reactions you're aware of.
I understand all that, sir. I'm asking you, what is the root of this? The root.
Would you say that
The self, all right. If it is the self, the me, if that is the root of all this, then what shall I do? I'm asking, what shall I do, having discovered the root, which is the me wanting this, me not wanting that, the me wanting a purpose and running after it, the me that, resists, the me that has a battle with itself, the me that, all the rest of it. If that is the root of it, which for me is the root, then what shall I do with it?
So we cannot do anything.
Wait, sir. What? Accept it, live with it, live in this battle, live with this violence.
I feel so. If you say I am violent, you haven't got to the root.
What?
I think if you say I am violent, but you haven't got to the root of the problem.
No, you haven't.
I mean, one
Quite
can go
right.
around parroting off I am violent.
There's no meaning. Agree. I agree. I see the me, with all its branches, is the cause of violence. The me that separates you and me and we and they, the black and the white and the communists, the Arabs, the Israel, and so on, so on, so on.
Rationally, you could say eliminate the me.
No, wait, sir. How? How is the mind to eliminate its whole structure which is based on the me? So do look at the issue. The me is the root of all this. The me identified with a particular nation, with a particular community, with a particular ideology, or with particular religious fancy. The me that identifies itself with a certain prejudice. The me that says, I must fulfill. And when it feels frustrated, there's anger, bitterness, and all the rest of it. The me that says, I must reach my goal, I must be successful. The me that wants and doesn't want. The me that says, I must live peacefully, and the me that gets violent. Now, how is this root to be what?
It seems to me, sir, as though it's an entity, whereas it seems to me that it is more of an action or an activity.
Quite.
It
is
not misleading us.
No, it is. Root doesn't mean it's something solid, like the root of a tree. It is a movement. It's a living thing. One day it is marvelous, the next day it is in great depression. One day it is passionate, lustful, next day it is worn out and say, let me have some peace. And so on. It's a constant, living, moving, active thing. It's not as solid as the rock or the tree of a trunk of a tree. So this is a living thing. How is the mind, which discovers this to be the root of all of this mischief, how is this movement to transform itself to another movement without creating more, without becoming violent? Right? Wait, let's get the question right. We said this is a movement. It's a living thing. It is not static. It's not a dead thing. It's adding to itself all the time and taking away from it all the time. This is the me. And when the me says, I must get rid of the me, wanting to have another me, it is still violence. The me that says, I am a pacifist. I live peacefully. The me that seeks truth. The me that says, I must live most beautifully, non-violently, is still the me which is the cause of violence. Right? Now, it's a living thing. What shall I do? What will the mind do with it? And the mind itself is the me. Right? I know it's a rather hot afternoon, so you understand the question, sir? Any movement on the part of me to get rid of itself is the same movement of the me. Right? Do we realize that? Huh? I know, please, do listen to that. Any movement of the me to say, I must wither away, I must destroy myself, I must gradually get rid of myself, any movement of the me is still the me, which is the root of violence. Right? Then what? Do I really see that? Not theoretical, but actually realize the truth of it. That any movement of the me Any movement, up or down, horizontally, or in any direction, backwards or forwards, downwards or upwards, any movement of the me is the action of violence. Do I actually sensuously, intelligently see the truth of it, the feel of it? If the mind doesn't, it can go on playing with words for everlasting.
Does the mind consist solely of the me? Are they identical?
Is the mind identical with the me? Is identical with the me when it is not occupied with the me. Right? When it isn't occupied with the me, it is not the me. And most of us are occupied with the me. Consciously or unconsciously. So don't...
We seem to be able to give up all kinds of thoughts, and as the me is put together by thought, why can't we discard it?
No, sir, I don't think... Why can't... It's impossible to discard anything. Except smoking cigarette, probably. But I'm saying, please, let's stick to this one thing. Do I actually see that any action of the me, negative or positive, is a form of violence, is violence? If I don't see it, why don't I see it? What's wrong with my eyesight, with my feeling? Is it that I'm afraid what will happen if I see it? Or I'm bored with the whole thing? Please come on, sir. I don't...
Sometimes one is carried away and therefore...
No, sir. No. It's not a question of being carried away. I am really... How often I can't allow to be... I want to find this out.
We can't rake up the energy to keep the mind on the subject.
No. No, sir. If you say we haven't the energy, then again the collecting of that energy is a form of the me, which says I must have more energy in order to tackle this. No, I say, please listen. Any movement of the me, which is thought, conscious or unconscious, any movement in any direction to get rid of itself, to commit suicide and so on, is still the me. Do I really see the truth of this?
There is something behind me, is not more.
Is there something behind the me which is not of the me?
We don't know. Yes, we do know.
Now do listen to that question, sir. Don't say we don't, we do. Is there anything of behind the me which is not of the me?
If there is, and we think about it, it's yet again part of me.
Who is putting this question?
Me can't know.
Who is putting this question? Is there something behind the me? Surely it's the me that's putting the blasted question. What?
Yeah, why not?
Huh?
Why not? Thought is a tool. Why not use it?
And no, we don't say why not. It is still the movement of the me.
I think we can only fail to see this if we
Beg pardon?
reject violence.
What?
You've asked, do we really see that any movement of the me is violence? I think the only reason that we can't see it is that we reject violence if we accept it.
Oh, no. There's not, either you see it or you don't see it. It isn't a question of something prevents you from seeing. I don't see it. I don't see my affection for my dog or for my wife or husband, for the beauty of, is part of me. Because I think that's the most marvelous state. Okay.
So by definition, you virtually said that life is violence, movement, change.
As we live now, life is violence. Living is a form of violence.
Is life possible without change? Is life possible without movement?
Beg pardon?
Is life possible without change, without movement?
That's what we're going to find, that's what we're asking. The life we lead is the life of violence which is caused by the me. And we are saying, do we see that any movement of the me in any direction, conscious or unconscious, is a form of violence? And if I don't see it, why don't I see it? What's wrong?
Isn't it the me that sees? If you say,
Wait, is it the me that sees it?
Is it intelligence?
Huh?
Is it intelligence?
What do you say, sir? I don't know. You find, what is it? What is it that sees that me is the root of all mischief? No, sir, please do watch it. Who sees it?
General, the me.
Is it the me that sees?
I don't see it. I'm afraid to give up everything I've ever known. This
So you
fear
don't
stops me
want
from
to
seeing.
see the me is responsible for this hideous mess. Because I say, please, I can't give up my particular little something or other. I don't care if the world goes bust, but I want to have my little corner. Therefore, I don't see the me is the root of all, whatever it is.
Would you say there is any other me other than the thinking process with an object in view? When I think towards something, towards an object, to me this is the me. And there is no other me except that process.
Obviously.
But
Wait,
the
sir.
process isn't the thing that sees the significance of the question.
No. We said this me is a living thing, is a movement, is all the time adding to itself, taking away from itself. And this me is the root of all mischief, violence. This movement, not this me called static something, which invents the soul, which invents God, which invents heaven, which is punishment, it's the whole of that. And we're asking, does the mind realize that the me is the cause of this mischief? Mind, if you like to use the word intelligence, mind which has seen the whole map of violence, all the intricacies of this violence, the mind sees it by observing. And the mind says, that is the root of all evil, all violence. So the mind now says, is it possible to live without the me? Right?
The process of seeing is different from the process of moving in a certain direction towards something.
Right. The process of seeing is entirely different. It is not a process. I want to use I won't use that word. No, I won't. The seeing is seeing. Not now. It's not a process of seeing. We're just discussing, sir. It's not because you're sorry, I'm sorry. Just stop it. Seeing is acting. Now, does the mind see it? See this whole map of violence and the root of it? And what is it that sees? Is it the me? If the me sees it, then it's afraid to live differently. Right? Then the me says, I must protect myself. I must resist this. I am afraid. Therefore, the me refuses to see the map. But the seeing is not the me.
Seeing has no purpose, has it?
Seeings are the map. There's no purpose, it just sees.
But immediately I say...
Wait. No. Do we realize the mind observing this fact, this map, the entire map? That mind is entirely different from the mind, from the me which sees it and is afraid to break from it. Right? There are two different observations. Seeing. The seeing, the me seeing and seeing. The me seeing must inevitably be afraid and therefore resist. Therefore say, how shall I live? What shall I do? Must I give this up? Must I hold on? And so on. Shall I cross that road? Go to that village on that map? Which we said, any movement of the me is violence. And there is a mere seeing the map, which is entirely different. Is this, Now, which is it that you are doing? Please, sir, come, which is it that you are doing?
Me is seeing.
Now, you say the me is seeing, therefore it's afraid.
There is words afraid in it.
Right, that's afraid. Then what will you do? Knowing any movement of the me is still furthering of that fear.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
The me is all I know.
No, sir, we made it very clear. Do listen to this, sir. There are two actions of seeing. Seeing the map non-directionally, non-purposively, just seeing. And the me seeing. The me with its purpose, with its drive, with its directive, with its resistance, says, it sees and is afraid to do this or that.
Are you using the word see now in the way in which you normally speak of being aware?
No, I'm just using the word seeing for a change, that's all.
Sir, you tell me there is such a state in which you can see without the me, but I have never experienced that.
Do it now, sir. I'm showing it to you. I'm showing it. We are showing it to you. There is the me that looks at this whole map of violence and therefore is afraid and therefore resists. Or, no, there is the me that sees that and therefore resists. There is another seeing which is not the me, which just observes non-purposively. Says, I just see it. But this is simple, isn't it? I see you've got a greenish shirt. I don't say I like it or dislike it. I just see it. But the moment I say I like it, I'm already the me saying I like it. And therefore, all the rest of it. Please, this is sufficiently clear, verbally at least.
Could we go into the question of why this, I've got to use the word, why this looking without the me is so very difficult and having...
No, I don't think it is difficult. Don't say it is difficult. Then you're stuck. Then you have blocked yourself.
One summarized it by saying that in one case there is a seeing without purpose, in the other case purpose is involved.
Yeah, that's all. Can I look without direction? And when I look with the direction, it's the me. What is the difficulty in this, may I ask?
Isn't it an illusion to think that looking with a direction is looking?
Looking with a direction is not looking,
Yeah.
obviously.
But aren't we in the illusion that it is looking?
That's what we are trying to point out.
There's a difference between looking and seeing. If one is looking, one is involved.
Don't let's complicate it now. Seeing, we said, does the mind see the whole map without any direction?
The map is direct, involves direct.
No. Just looks. So the map, oh my Lord, I don't change the word map. This whole structure of the me is violence. The structure being the way I live, the way I think, the way I feel, the whole reaction to the establishment or to communism or to Catholicism or to the black or to the white, is a form of violence, which is the me. That is all in the category of time. Right? I'm changing the word. And the seeing is non-time. Because I see it. The moment I see with time, and there is fear. What's that? Yes. Now, do find out, sir, how do you see? Do you see non-purposively or purposively, my Lord? Do you see in terms of time? That is, say it's too difficult, it's too complex, it is too, what am I to do, and all the rest of it? Or do you see it without time? And if you say, I don't see it without time, next question is, why? What's the difficulty? Is it physical blindness, or is it psychological disinclination to look at anything as it is? Because we have never looked at anything directly, always trying to avoid escape. Therefore, if we are escaping, let's see the escape, not how to resist escape. I don't know. Because if you say, can you look at your escape non-purposively? Right? Come on, sirs. Don't you think we better stop? We'll continue tomorrow morning, so shall we stop? What do you say? So it's up to you, please. No? Don't you want to walk in the woods?
It gets a bit difficult to concentrate after an hour.
It's difficult to concentrate after an hour and a half, so we better stop right now.